Okay, guys, this is it. We have 2 lessons, okay? And that's it. You should be told by the end of your book there aren't many more pages left, okay? So here's our schedule. I see you today and I see you Wednesday, and that is it, okay? Everything after that is review, okay? So a new lesson today, new lesson Wednesday. We review it here on Thursday. Your quiz is on Monday. Excuse me, your unit test is on Monday. That's it, okay? And then after that, then we start reviewing for the final exam, okay? Which I'm thinking that everybody will be involved in that process, okay? Eagle roll in this class is, the grade that gets reported Eagle roll is already set, okay? So that's set based on what the quiz was last week. And I'll share that with you sort of the end of the class, okay? Now, that being said, there are some weird things that happen with Eagle roll based on this. So like, suppose you had a B minus and you made Eagle roll. What could happen in this class? What could happen if you had a B minus and then we have a unit test? What could happen? The grade could go to a C, in which case you take the final. So you could make Eagle roll and still end up taking the final if a B minus drops to a C. What if you had a B plus and you were not on Eagle roll, but you did really well and made an A in this class? Then you could not be on Eagle roll and be exempt. So the ways to get exempt are you're on Eagle roll and you got an A or B, or you're not on Eagle roll but you have an A. Okay, so several things could happen to make that work. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Questions? Yeah, you could still do it. Yeah, so you could, for example, you could have a, you could be on Eagle roll, with a C plus or B plus, but want to take the exam to improve it. You could certainly do that. Okay. And what were you saying, Alina? Yeah. So there are different permutations. So that all gets submitted for you guys. I think it's a week from today is when that gets submitted, but we don't have any grades. It's due 8:30 next Monday morning, which is before you take your unit test. So there's no way the unit test goes on that consideration. So it's basically already set. So let's talk about what we need to talk about today. So what we're doing today is not a whole lot of new, but we're bringing everything together because the unit test coming up is going to be on circles, ellipses, hyperbolas, and parabolas. All of them jumbled together, and you got to tell which is which, okay? So we've spent a lot of time, been a long unit, going through this piece by piece, but now it all comes together, okay? Remember, if we take a cone and we do a section, which is just parallel to this plane, that's how we get the circle, okay? If we were to tilt that slightly and go through the cone this way, that's how we get the ellipse, okay? If we start here at the base of this plane and go up through one section, this is how we get the parabola. And if we were to, remember if we had the 2 cones, if we cut straight down and we get the 2 sections, that's how we get the hyperbola, okay? What was the definition of a circle? Set of all points, what? Equidistant from a point. That's, the center. That was a circle. What was our definition of an ellipse? Yeah, the set of all points equidistant from 2 fixed points. Or the distance from the sum of the distances from the 2 points is constant, okay? What was our definition for our hyperbola? What's the difference in the equation when you look at an ellipse versus a hyperbola? What's the difference?
Oh, the one. Ellipses are squared and the hyperbola is
No. Difference between an ellipse and hyperbola. Come on, guys. That's the way it graphs. What there's only the standard form of an ellipse, the equation, the standard form of ellipse versus the standard form of a hyperbola. Yeah, there's just a minus sign in the hyperbola, okay? So the hyperbola is the set of all points, a fixed distance from, what's constant is the difference between the distance of 2 points, okay? So you've got 2 focal points, it touches a curve, the difference is constant. Whereas with an ellipse, the sum is constant, okay? Those are definitions that are back there for us. So let's look at some of these. That first one, does anybody know what that is? It's a parabola. You knew that before the conic section because we covered this when? Last September, October, November. We were there a long time last semester. Yeah, this is evidently not long enough for some of you guys. This is a parabola, okay? So what's the so now in this one, this parabola, is it vertical or horizontal? This is vertical. Okay. So what is the equation? This is y minus what? Yeah, is 1 over 4p x minus h squared. Okay. That's the standard form of this. Okay. This was something you were quizzed on last week. Okay. Now let's look at the next one. Anybody know what this is? I got a vote for an ellipse. Got a vote for a circle. Circles, ellipses. Anybody for parabola? No parabola. Okay. So what is the equation of it? This is a circle. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal r squared. Okay. Where's the center of this circle? Where's the center? But this circle right here, where is it centered? 0, 0. Okay. What's the radius of that circle? Square root of 15. Kyle, I don't know where you're pulling this information from. What about the next one? What is that one? I'm hearing ellipse and hyperbola. Yeah. Yeah, right. So this one, this is an ellipse. The standard form is x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equal 1. Okay. You can see that's what the form of this one is. Now, is that a horizontal or vertical ellipse? Why would you say horizontal? Pardon me? Yeah, okay, with ellipses, it's A and B that determines which way it is. No. You look at the 8. We're looking at this one. Since 8 is bigger than 7, that means this is a vertical ellipse. The major axis is the vertical axis. It's longer than the horizontal. So this is a vertical ellipse. So we know that this ellipse is vertical. Okay. Yeah, you've been saying hyperbola for all of these, so you're going to be right. I knew that one of the 4 times. You'll be right. This is hyperbola. And when you look at it, how do you know? What's the clue that the hyperbola versus all the others? What do you see? Yeah, you see one of the terms positive, one of the terms negative. Is this horizontal or vertical? Horizontal because the x is positive. Okay, so this is a horizontal. So the form of the equation is x minus h squared over a squared. Here we go. So horizontal hyperbola. What's the last one?
It's a parabola.
Yeah.
This time it's horizontal.
Yeah. What's different about parabolas than all the others? And when you look at the equations, you only see one thing squared, okay? So this is a parabola, and this one is horizontal. What is the form that I will use for this one? Yeah, the x minus h is 1 over 4p, y minus k squared. Okay. So that's the form of that. So what we're really doing in this section is you'll be given these conics, and rather than the question say, here's a hyperbola, put it in standard form, it's going to say, here's a conic, you guess what it is, and then you put it in standard form. So you got to be able to decipher what each of these are. Now these were pretty straightforward. They're going to get a little bit more complicated, but this is the process you need to think about. Is there only one variable that's squared? So if you don't, this is the This is what you want to ask yourself. If one variable is squared and one variable is not squared, that means there's one quadratic and one linear, it's a parabola, okay? So then you have to determine, is it x minus h is 1 over 4p y minus k squared, or y minus k is 1 over 4p x minus h squared. So if only one thing is squared, you're dealing with a parabola. The next thing you want to ask is, are there two variables squared, but they have opposite signs? That tells me it's a what? I've got two squared terms, but the signs are opposite. That's a hyperbola. Remember, hyperbolas were either in the x term was positive and the y term was negative, or the y term positive, x term negative. But when they had different signs, that was a hyperbola, okay? The next question is, are there two terms squared and they have the same sign? That is, they're both positive or both negative, but they have different coefficients. That's when I'm dealing with an ellipse, okay? And then it's a circle if they're two squared terms, they have the same sign and they have the same coefficient. That's when I'm dealing with a circle, okay? So some of this will come into being as we just work through these. But that's sort of the flow chart of the decisioning that needs to happen. Now, these are a little bit more involved than what we saw first of all. So you tell me what these are, okay? So, Kyle, what's the first one? Well, first of all, okay, ask yourself, is it a parabola? Why is it not a parabola? Yeah. A parabola would only have one thing squared, like right here. Okay, so I got two things squared. All you really need to know is looking at those two terms, okay? So when I look at those two terms, it's not a parabola, okay? Now, do those things have the same sign or opposite signs? Yeah. If it had the opposite sign, it would be a what? Hyperbola. If one was positive, one was negative, then I've got a hyperbola. So I don't have a parabola, I don't have a hyperbola. Do these have the same coefficients? No, that's an ellipse, okay? If these were identical, it would be a circle. If they both had 4s or they both had 9s. This is an ellipse. Okay. So it means I'm going to have to put it in the form x minus, this is what you got to know cold, x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equal 1. That's the form. Now, if I needed to get this to standard form, it needs to look like that, okay? Okay, so Kyle, the next one, you can redeem yourself. Okay, so first of all,
Wait a minute.
first of all,
You told me I'm wrong.
how many do you see? Do you see one or two squared things? You see two. It's not a parabola, okay? Now, do you see opposite signs or the same signs? Same, so it's not a hyperbola. So it's either an ellipse or a circle. Do I see the same coefficient or different coefficients? Same coefficient. This is a circle. Okay? What's the equation of a circle? X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal what? R squared. That would be the form I would need to get that one in. Okay? Okay, Kyle. Is it a parabola?
It's a hyperbola.
Okay. So you're finally, if that's all you've been saying all day long, you say they're all hyperbolas. So I know one out of 4 you're going to get right. Okay. So it's not a parabola because there are two square terms. Okay. And then the next thing, do I see opposite signs? The minute you see opposite signs, this is hyperbola. So it's either going to be x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equal 1, or it's going to be y minus k squared over b squared minus x minus h squared over a squared equal 1. So it's going to be one of those two forms, okay? Yeah, these are parabolas because you only see one squared term, okay? So this has to be a parabola. Is it a vertical or horizontal?
We're getting the part. Oh,
It's vertical. Which form of the equation will I use?
it is vertical?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I guess so hard.
Okay.
I didn't say horizontal.
Okay. What is this one? Is a parabola.
That's horizontal.
And I'll be using the form what? X minus h
Yes.
is 1 over 4p y minus k squared. Okay.
I know we so much.
So you got to know these formulas. Like if you're having to look up these formulas, that's time you don't have. Okay. And that means certain learning is not as solid as it should be. So these formulas should be in your muscle memory by now. Okay. So what's new is being able to look through these, go through a decisioning process. And like I said, this is the way you just need to look at it. If you only see one squared term, you're dealing with parabola. Just determine which form you're using. If you see two squared terms with opposite signs, you've got a Kyle or a hyperbola. Okay. If you see two squared terms, they have the same sign, but they have different coefficients, that's an ellipse. Two squared terms, same sign, same coefficient, that's going to be a circle. Okay? So what's different in this section then is you're going to see problems like this. What is this? And put it in standard form.
I'm right.
You just is Kyle right when he says this is hyperbola?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a parabola. I see two squared terms, they have opposite signs. This is a hyperbola. So I want this to look like x minus h squared over a squared okay? So I need to get it in one of those two forms, okay? So what is the process we go through to get it in those forms?
Now you must
Complete the square. Now some of you are good with completing the square. Some of you, it's killing you not being able to complete the square, okay? So this is 9. What do I have to do with that 9?
put it over there. You know what I mean.
That one, yes. Okay, guys. Okay, guys, everybody stay with me. So the first, I got to factor out a 9, okay? Why am I not going to write 18x and x? Some of you did this on the quiz, so I want to know why you would do that. Why would you write? Yeah.
18x.
I'm writing a 2x because what am I doing here? I'm what? Factoring. We've been doing factoring for as long as you've been in this class, okay? Now I'm factoring out a negative 4. So negative 4 times y squared is negative 4y squared. What do I multiply negative 4 by to get negative 24y? And that's a 6y. And then negative 9. Now, to complete the square, what must I add here? Plus 1 squared. What must I add here? 3 squared. I feel like I'm adding a 1, but I'm really adding what? 9. So I'd like to think I'm adding 9, but I'm really subtracting what? 36. Okay? You guys are just so charming over there. So, you okay, Kyle? Are you?
Measure my seat. I think I'm right. And I don't want you to make me wrong again.
So this is 9. It's a hyperbola. We already established it's a hyperbola. That's not changing. So when I factor this, what do I get? X plus 1 squared minus 4, what? Okay, equal what? Negative 36. Okay. Now, is that finished equal to negative 36? What do I want it to be equal to? I want it to be equal to 1. Okay. So what does this become? 36 divided by 9 is what? Yeah, so this is x plus 1 squared over negative 4. What's 36? Negative 36 divided by 4? 9. So this is y plus 3 squared over 9 equal 1.
Not yet.
So
Flip the equation.
I would take that as a correct answer, but we really want it to look like this. So your final answer here is y plus 3 squared over 9 minus x plus 1 squared over 4 equal 1. This is what kind of hyperbola?
It's vertical.
Vertical, okay? So initially when I started out, I thought like, oh, this is probably going to be horizontal because that's you can't look at this and tell horizontal. You can only wait till you get the standard form to determine vertical or horizontal, okay? So completing the square, you guys should be there on this one, okay?
Okay. For this one, Mr. Darty, if I get this condensation right, I get this single bonus point. Ready? It's a circle. If you're right.
So let's work on this. Is it a parabola? No. Okay. Then the next question: look at your squared terms. Do they have opposite signs? So it's not a hyperbola. So now it's either an ellipse or a circle. Do they have the same coefficient?
Yes.
Yeah. This is a circle. Okay. So what's the standard form that I'm looking for here?
X.
Remember this one, Kyle? It's
Yeah, I was.
that's what we're after now. Okay. So now I need to complete the square in both x and y. So let's factor this out. I need to factor a negative 1. So that's going to be x squared minus 6x. Okay. Minus y squared plus 4y equal 3. So that's negative x squared plus 6x. That's negative y squared minus 4y. Instead of a negative 3, I added the 3 on the other side. Okay. Now I complete the square. I have to add what here? Yeah, 3 squared. And here I have to add 2 squared. So what did I really do here? I subtracted 9. And what did I do here? Subtracted 4. Okay. So this is negative x minus 3 squared minus y plus 2 squared equals negative 10. What do I think when I see this negative, negative, negative? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can divide it all by negative 1. All right. And I get x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equal 10. Where's the center of that circle? 3, negative 2. Why is it not 2, negative 3, or negative 2, 3? Yeah, it's 3, negative 2. What's the radius of this circle? Square root of 10. Okay. Okay? Okay, what is this? Kyle's quiet over there. What is this one? I'm hearing ellipse. So first of all, it's not a parabola. You got two things squared. Do I see, when I look at my squared terms, do I see opposite signs? No, so it's not a hyperbola. It's either an ellipse or circle. Ellipse if the coefficients are different, circle if the coefficients are the same. This is an ellipse, okay? So I'm looking for x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equal 1. Okay? Pretty good. Now this one you're going to hate, but let's just stick with me. I can't decide if that 46 was what I meant or if that was a typo. It's going to make things ugly, but it's just arithmetic, guys. Things you learned in middle school. So to complete the square, I'm going to have a negative x squared minus what, 46x? That's negative x squared plus 46x minus 9 y squared minus what? What do I multiply negative 9 by to get positive 8?
Wait, sorry, 4. Oh.
Okay, wait a minute. Negative 9 times what is positive 18y?
The answer is 4, but you're looking for something.
Okay. Equal 89. Okay. Now to complete the square, what do I have to add here?
Negative 23 times. Well, 23 times.
23 squared. What goes here?
4.
1 squared. Half of 2, right? So it looks like I added 23 squared, but what did I really do? I subtracted 23 squared. Here it looks like I added 1, but I really subtracted what? 9. Okay. So 23 times 23. 529 plus 80. Negative 449. Okay. Okay, so what is this? What is this? This is negative what? X what?
Oh, plus 23. Minus 23. Squared.
What's this?
Thank you. It's phenomenal type.
Okay. Now I've got negative, negative, negative. Okay. What can I change all those to? Positive. So this is going to be x minus 23 squared plus 9 y minus 1 squared equal 449. What will I do to make, I don't want a 449 over there. What do I want? 1. Right? So this is final answer. Let me just write it right here. X minus 23 squared over 449 plus multiplying by 9 is the same as I can multiply this by, say what, 1/9 over 1/9. What's 9 times 1/9? 1. So this is going to be y minus 1. Kyle acts like I'm punishing him over here. 449 over 9 equal 1. That's it. So I don't know if I meant for that to be the answer or not, but that is the answer for this one. So just because the numbers aren't pretty, trust yourself, okay? So when you had 9 over 449, okay? If I multiply this by 1/9 over 1/9, 9 over 9 is 1. This is 449 over 9. Okay. Natalie is not convinced. Trust me, it's there, okay? So hopefully they won't get too ugly like this on a quiz or test. Why are you not going with hyperbola? That's your usually go-to, Kyle. Okay. Why is this one a parabola?
1 squared.
Yeah, you only think one thing that is squared. This is a parabola, okay? Which form of the parabola will I use? Guys, which form of the equation of parabola? Yeah, it's y minus k equal 1 over 4p x minus 8 squared. Okay, there's a lot more conversation going over here. It doesn't feel about hyperbolas and parabolas. Or maybe I'm wrong. Is it? Okay. So y minus k is 1 over 4p x minus 8 squared. So you can if you want. Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is like I just look at it like, okay, I want to get this over here, but I want to get a y minus something by itself. If I did it like this, I've got y minus something all by itself now. Okay, so I move the y, negative y and the 19 to the other side, right? So this is y minus 19 equal You got to factor out this negative. Negative x squared minus 8x. Okay, now I need to complete the square. So I need to add what? Yeah, 4 squared. So it looks like I'm adding 16, but what am I really doing? I'm subtracting 16. So this equation is y minus 35 equal negative x minus what? 4 squared. Where's the vertex of that parabola? Where's the vertex? It's not negative. It's the vertex is 435. Okay, of this one. This parabola open up or down? Down. Okay, there's a negative in front of it. Okay. What is this one? It's a parabola because there's only one thing squared. Let's keep going. So what's the form of this one? What form of the parabola? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I need to complete the square in what variable? Which variable will I have to complete the square in? Y, okay, because y has the squared term, okay? So let's look. I can do something like this. Negative 3x minus 13 equal y squared plus y. Okay, so I've got the x and the number on one side. I've got everything y related on the right. So, and this is one that people aren't going to like, but guys, they're just fractions, okay? So, y squared plus y. What do I have to do to complete the square here? Come on. It's always, what do you look at this number. What's the number in front of the y? What do you take on that number? What's half of 1? Okay. What number is that? What did I just add? What's 1/2 squared? 1/4. So if I'm going to add 1/4 to the right, I have to add 1/4 to the left. Okay. This is not punishment. These are just fractions, guys. Okay. So how do I figure out what is 1/4 minus 13? How do I combine those things? I have to have a common what? What would the common denominator be here? So this is 1/4 minus 52/4. All right, what is that? Negative 51/4. Okay. So I've got negative 3x minus 51/4 equal, what is this? Y plus, let's go with 1/2 squared. Okay. Evidently, there are some things that can stop you now, Kyle, according to the contrary to popular opinion from there. Okay, now, does this look exactly like this? Is it in final form? What's keeping it from being in that form? That negative 3. What am I going to do? What do you think I'll do to that negative 3? Yeah, either divide everything by 3 or just, here I can factor out this negative 3. X, okay, plus. So what happens when I multiply negative 3 times x? What do I get? Okay. What happens when I multiply negative 3 times 1/3? I get negative 1. No. So negative 3 times 1/3 is a negative 1. Negative 1 times 51/4 is negative 51/4. Okay. So this is What's 51 divided by 3? 17. So this is negative 3 x plus 17 over 4 equal y plus 1/2 squared. Is that the final form?
No.
No. I need to divide everything now by what? Negative 3. So this is x plus 17 over 4 equal negative 1/3 y plus 1/2 squared. Final form. There we go. If you can get that, you're solid. Okay. Where's the vertex?
Negative 17 towards
Negative 1/2. Does this open left or right or up or down?
It opens left.
Left. Okay, because it's horizontal. It's got a negative. It's opening to the left. Okay. So again, the only thing new we did today was, if this problem had been on your quiz last week, I would have said, put this parabola in standard form. Now I'm saying, what kind of conic is this, and put it in standard form. So you have to identify that it is a parabola, and then you have to put it in standard form. Okay. Now there's one other thing I want to do here. So you've got some room on your paper, but I just want to see this. This shows that you're solid on completing the square. Okay. So let's look at a x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Have we ever seen anything like this? How do we solve this? Using what?
That's
How would you solve? Quadratic formula, okay? So, if you're ever on a desert island, you need the quadratic formula and you're not sure what it is, you can derive the quadratic formula. All the quadratic formula is completing the square. So, I want us to complete the square. I want you guys to stay with me here. Focus on every step here and just see that by completing the square, that's how we get the quadratic formula. So, what if I were to write this as a x squared plus bx equal negative c? Just move the c to the other side. Have we done something like that before in completing the square?
yes, we have.
We've done that. What if I were to now say, let's divide everything by a? Is that a valid thing to do?
Yes.
Okay, again. Okay, so now I've got what? X squared plus b over a x equal negative c over a. Now, the left side is in the form where I can do what now? What can I do on the left side? Starts with the word complete. Complete the square. Okay, so to complete the square on the left side, I've got x squared plus b over a x. So b over a, I need to find the number that is what? What of b over a? I need to take what of that number? Half of it and then square it, okay? So what is half? What do you get when you take 1/2 of b over a? What do you get? What is that? Guys, it's multiplying two fractions. What is this? B over what? 2a. That's half of b over a. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add b over 2a what? Squared, okay? If I add that to the left, what will I do to the right? Same thing, right? So, what is this on the left? This is now what? Come on, guys. Completing the square. We added this very number because it does something very specific now. What is this? X plus b over 2a squared, right? That's the left side. And then on the right, it looks like I've got b squared over 4a squared minus c over a. Let's pretend like we've already done a unit on rational expressions, and we know how to combine fractions. How do we combine those two fractions on the right? What do we need? Common denominator. What's the common denominator? 4a squared. So this needs to be multiplied by 4a over 4a, right? That would give me the common denominator. So if I come over here, I have x plus b over 2a squared equal. This is b squared minus c times 4 times a. I'm going to call that 4ac over 4a squared. Does it start to look like something you've seen before? Yeah, b squared minus 4ac. We've seen that before. Okay, now, how do I solve something squared equals something? What do I do now? How do you solve something squared equal another number? What do you do? Take the square root of both sides, okay? What's the square root of the left? X plus b over 2a equal. And right after that equal sign, what am I going to write? Come on, guys, taking the square root of both sides. What do I write? Plus or minus? Square root of b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. What's the square root of 4a squared? What's the square root of 4? 2. Square root of a squared is a. So this is x plus b over 2a equal plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So what do I do to get the x by itself? Subtract b over 2a. So x equal negative b over 2a plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Can I combine those two things? Do they have the same denominator? Yeah. So this is our final moment. X equal negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, all of that over 2a. So this is good summer fun. If you ever get bored during the summer, you know, you could binge on this stuff, guys. I mean, this is like better than Netflix, you know. So again, this is more complicated than I'm not going to give you this on a quiz, but what I want you to see is this is completing the square. Completing the square is how we got the quadratic formula, okay? It's complicated because it's all A's and B's and C's, but if you can do this, it means you're very solid with your algebraic skills, okay? Okay, what I need to do now, guys,